name is Sandy Duarte, and today I will be presenting some ideas about nonverbal behavior. Um, before I start my presentation, I have some questions to ask. Um, what is nonverbal communication and body language?
So nonverbal communication is where we don't use words but use our body language in order to express the same thing. It could be intentional or non-intentional. For instance, uh, like in India, we have crossing our legs, where we it's just over here in the United States, crossing your legs is just for comfort or shifting of your position, whereas in India it could mean disrespect towards your elders. So yeah, it's communicating intentionally or unintentionally about the same. Um, yeah, yeah. So yeah.
Alrighty, the next question I have is, how does nonverbal behavior differ from Indian culture and the North American culture?
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's
answer.
pretty much the same thing what I said.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
As she said, in India, crossing legs
Mm-hmm.
is disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
Where here is normal, right? Yeah, that's the reason we got.
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that's good to know. So, just one more question, actually. Why is it disrespectful to cross your legs?
Yeah. So the thing is, in Indian culture, right? We don't talk to people or talk to anything by legs, using our legs, right? It's in the sense, we always use a hand or our mouth or our head, right, as a gesture to give respect to people. If we show our leg, right, or if we touch someone with our leg, it's like speaking to them with our with our leg, which is not which is not considered to be respectful.
Wait, it's like this. In a sense, elders are regarded with so much respect always, even in terms of seating. They're seated higher, and then even sitting together in the same room, they're seated higher, or they're seated in a more prominent place as compared to the younger people or the less superior people. And using your hands and bowing your head is while even giving a plate or a spoon to an elder, that is respectful. And your leg being the bottommost portion of your body, using it, it's like kicking someone. It's as bad as kicking, just even touching the leg to someone.
Pretty much putting them, in
It's
the
like,
lowest part of
yeah,
it, right?
it's like you're breaking the hierarchy, and that's not. It's. I mean, you'll have to pretty much bear the consequences of that action. So that's how it is.
So it has nothing to do with being provocative, like using, like for instance, if someone like hits you with their leg, it has nothing to do with provocative or crossing your legs. It's not like what I mean by provocative is kind of like there's usually females that they like to flirt with their body language, like they use
Yeah,
body
right,
language
right,
to flirt.
Right.
Is there any way that could be like a flirtatious type of nonverbal behavior?
Not really, right?
No.
I mean,
Okay.
You know what? Actually, you are right. It depends. So if you're doing it to an elder, it's one thing. If you're doing it to your contemporary in same age group, it's one thing. But it's the prostitutes that kind of use their legs and wiggle around, and so it's considered not very. It's not from a decent background if a girl is trying to do that,
Oh.
and that's not encouraged or in a decent society.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it could be flirtatious and it's not very appreciated. So,
Yeah, it's a very good point. Could be that. Yeah, that could be the reason. Right, yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, well, we will move on. Thank you for your answers. I appreciate it. Alright, the definition for nonverbal communication is not using any words. It's basically using body movements, gestures, the tone of voice. Um, it's just, it has to do with anything but words. Even signs, like outside, if you see any type of signs, like the stop sign, it's a nonverbal
Right.
like communication for us to know to stop and things like that. Okay. Um, According to Ray, an American anthropologist who founded kinesics as a field of inquiry and research, his approximation of nonverbal behavior is interpreted for the minimum of 60 to 70% of what humans communicate to one another, although psychologist Albert estimates that as much as 93% of the emotional meaning of messages is transmitted nonverbally. Researchers have observed and come across the notion that nonverbal behaviors are usually more acceptable than words. When spoken words and nonverbal gestures oppose one another, most individuals accept what is perceived and unspoken rather than words. Nonverbal communication is exceptionally crucial through the human eyes since it is acknowledged and remembered more than words one articulates. Practically, these researchers they study kinesics and they notice that people are more accepting of your nonverbal behavior than what you say.
Right.
So, for instance, if you say that you're happy, but yet you're crying, they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
"What's going on?" So,
Right.
or if you say, "I'm very happy to know that you are graduating," but you say in a like angry tone of voice, they're not gonna accept your words. They're most likely to accept your nonverbal behavior. So it will be
Correct.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add in?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, so in the first couple of years that I came to the US, every time I spoke to someone, they would keep a very straight face and you'd be saying something, and it would be very confusing for me
Yes, me too.
to trying to understand the words, but they're like not showing any expression. I'm like, why was that person keeping a straight face?
Yes.
Are they trying to, they don't want to be judged, and that's why it's a screen that they use as,
Yeah.
and it used to be very difficult for me. It took me a while before because I'm a very expressive person and everything shows up with all my eyes and hands I use. Whereas,
Yeah, even now in the workplace,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of. It's mostly predominant with the local Americans, right? They don't tend to show expressions, at
And
least in the office environment.
yeah, and it takes me, even now I find it a little difficult to communicate or connect with people like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is when you have a straight face, you don't seem to trust
Yeah.
what they're trying to say. It's very hard to trust that
Yeah.
person because there's no clarity there, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree. That's actually what I was telling Sal. That I always like when people have a straight face and they don't show any emotions or anything. I tell them I have such a hard time knowing if they're happy or mad at me,
Yes.
or
Yeah, exactly.
and then I don't know what to feel, or like it actually makes me more nervous and
Yes.
uncomfortable.
Yes.
So I kind of want to avoid them more. I'm
Yes.
just like, how about I just try to go this way because
Yes.
I won't.
Very true.
I don't know if they like me or not. So
Yes.
yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Alrighty, well, thank you for your input. I will move on to the next slide. Emblematic meaning through nonverbal communication is one of the ideas that North Americans that we have like embraced over time. It's just how I had said previously. We like to nod our head to say yes or no, and usually when we are nodding our head, we say yes or I agree to it. And some of the other symbolic meanings are like signs, like no smoking signs, or the sign of a female restroom, or the sign of a male's restroom. And those are things that we unconsciously, we don't really pay attention to it, but we just know that,
Right.
yeah, what it means without having to Google it or anything. So,
There's a, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
oh, okay, no, it's okay.
So it was a professor of mine, a good friend now. He was traveling to China, and the same symbols for the toilets and everything. It was so different and it was so confusing, and he put it up on Facebook. So I'll share it with you after this lecture.
Yeah.
So they have very different symbols in their country,
Oh,
and some words to go with it, and it's even more confusing what they're trying to say. For as simple as
wow.
I don't know if it's a universal thing or specific to those places, but yeah, it'll be good to
Oh,
see
okay.
that.
Yeah, I think this is also not a universal thing. It's just a North American
Oh, I see. Okay.
thing. Yeah, because like symbols they vary according to culture and country. So
That,
yeah, but I guess right now I'm just referring to the North Americans. And,
Okay.
yeah, but that's good to know because I didn't know that. So I'd probably be very confused myself. I would be like, what is going on? Like, what does that mean? Especially because I'm very analytical. So if I read that, I would be like, oh no, like, where do I have to go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, I'm gonna move to the next slide. um, sometimes nonverbal behaviors can be ambiguous, usually unclear. You're not sure what they mean. Um, for example, sometimes when I'm being friendly with somebody, they think that I'm flirting with them. When I'm just being very like accepting and just trying to be, benevolent with them, and they take it as flirtatious, and I'm like, oh no. Like according to culture, even in the South, I learned that I had to be a little bit more serious than in the West. Even though it's North America, the culture varies even within North America. So I had to be very cautious with the way I just kind of carried myself. So that's something that I struggled with when I went to the South is that I was too friendly and bubbly. That people thought that I was flirting. So I was like, okay, I have to be more serious. And in California, acting that way is it's a norm because the majority of the people are like they're always laughing, and of course there's people that do drugs, so they're just always just laughing. So they're just happy. So they're happy for some reason. Yeah. Yeah. Alrighty, well, I'm gonna move to
That's interesting to know. There's so much of variation within the country. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was across the planet that the difference was. But yeah.
no, I used to live in Detroit area, right? The west eastern part of it. I feel people are more over there. They're more. I think they're more accepting. They're more accepting in that part of the country than here.
You mean to other cultures?
That's
They're
nice.
more friendly,
Really?
very friendly.
I know. I also know that in California they like differences. So if you have like an accent or anything, they're like they just are so infused by it. They're like, oh, where do you come from? And they're like wanting to know more about you. And then like a certain place that I lived in the South, I was struggling because I lived like in the very country area,
Right.
and there was like more rednecks and country people. They were like, where are you from? But they were less accepting. They felt kind of threatened by it, that I was different from them. So they're like, why is she so different from us? And they kind of felt a little threatened or intimidated by it. So I was like, okay, I have to kind of blend in. So I thought I'm not treated like indifferently or just treated badly. So
Right.
that's
No,
what I try to do.
yeah, because see the reason it's so for this particular topic, because in that part of the country, right, if you come across a person in front of you, you acknowledge them, you smile at them, you come out in there, right? Here it doesn't happen. No one looks into your eyes.
Was that right?
Yes. Here, not everyone no one even looks into your eyes.
No, they
Yeah,
don't.
not
They
many
don't.
people look into your eyes there.
No.
If you walk around, they'll just look around and go.
Yeah.
They don't even. But over there, they will look into your eyes and they smile.
Yeah, actually that happened to me not too long ago. I was spoiling one of the ladies, like one of our neighbor's dog. I was like, oh, good boy, and I didn't realize it was a girl. But she looked mad because I said good boy, and I was like, oh jeez, I'm supposed to know it's sex right away. So I was like, I meant to say good girl. And then she was just kind of like looking away, and I was like, okay, so she doesn't want to talk, so I just look this way as well. So yeah.
It could just be my experience or my
Yeah.
experience. That's what it's not may not be a universal experience. It's just my our individual experience.
Alrighty, well, we're gonna continue. Something I learned through research is that usually people remember what they see rather than words. Something I have learned previously too is that people remember 10% of what they actually hear of like words than what they see, and people usually define other people like, for instance, the woman who is always half naked, or the woman who is always presentable and looks sophisticated, who carries herself, well. So people always define other people by what they see rather than what they hear, because they're more likely to forget what they hear. Even though words are very impactful, that's practically the way they will remember. That's the only way that they will remember certain words to say, is if it really impacted their life. But other than that, they will most likely remember what they see.
It's interesting.
Very true.
I guess it's the way the brain's structured.
Yeah, I think even
Yes.
perhaps this is at least our experience too. When we go to someone's house or when you go to social setting, you, in a sense, you are pretty much
Judging them
repelled,
by
yeah.
what-
Just, yeah, more than their words, you just
Yeah.
how they are, their body language. That's what actually.
The body language, the way they have the house and everything, and so you
Yeah.
kind of attach values to
Yeah.
what they are as a person to
Yes.
how they.
Their body,
Yeah.
their behavior.
Yeah.
And actually, some of my friends, they forget the names of the people that they say, oh yeah, the gay guy. And I'm like, that's that's a little bit. That was like, that's a little bit. Let's just say mean. So let's just say his name.
Yeah.
Or oh yeah, the fat woman, or the.
Yes.
They always say things like that, and they just completely forget their names, which is something really vital in our culture, because when people know that you know their names, they feel like, wow, she actually took the time to remember my name. So they take it like she actually cares. Like usually people don't care, that they just say hey, hello, and they don't remember your name,
Yeah.
and they just define you as, oh, they look a certain way. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's something important for people to know, especially if you have like leadership positions, like to always try to remember their names. Even if we have a hard time remembering, try to do little things that kind of match the name.
Yes.
Like, okay, her name sounds close to this, so I'll
Yes.
remember this name this way. So
Right, right.
yeah. Okay, well, I'll move on to the next one. Eye contact, how it affects credibility. Um, Something I learned about eye contact is it could be something positive or negative, and the audience, it depends. Like, for instance, if we're like, if our eyes are wandering and we're not staring straight at the audience, and we're just kind of wandering around or rolling our eyes, people here in North America will think that either you're mentally not okay, you're nervous, or you will make them feel uncomfortable. They'll be like, okay, they will start to feel your uncomfort, that they will feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but if you stay straight into their eyes and you're just looking at everyone, not just a certain section, then they will think that you have a preference too. If you just look at one area and not the rest, they're gonna be like, she seems to be staring quite awfully so much in that area. Who is she, staring at? They're gonna begin to wonder, why are you only staring at one section, or keeping eye contact in one section than the other sections?
Right, right.
Yeah. So that's something that is important in North America. I know that in Japan, staring at someone straight into the eye is actually rude.
Yes.
So they actually have to look down
Yes.
when they talk to someone who is higher than them. Because in a way it's like humbleness, he's showing humbleness, and that they respect their position by looking down. But in North America, I know that by staring into the eyes, you're actually paying attention to them. And when you look away, that makes them think you're uninterested, and you don't want to, you're careless, you just don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the same in India too.
In India too, yeah.
In India too. Yeah. Even now, I don't look into my dad's eyes and talk.
Oh,
And
I didn't know.
it was
Okay.
the other way in my house, though.
It's
Oh.
It's the same culture, same state, same community, and we've always made eye contact while speaking. So that's how I grew up.
Oh, okay.
And being equally treated, girl and boy, and everything.
It's not about equal treatment.
No, I know. I know that's set apart.
Yeah.
But having grown up making eye contact and speaking, and when I was married and came into his family and doing the same thing was considered rude.
Oh.
So it's like, how can you speak to an elder just staring into the eye?
Oh, okay.
It's more like humbleness. As
It's
you
humbleness.
said, it's not like not like you're trying to what do you say? It's more like humbleness. That's what I would say. You're just trying to be humble. You're not. Once in a while, you look into their eyes and then take your eyes away, and then it's just being respectful. That's it. There's nothing against it.
Yeah. That's something that I was not aware of. So.
You learn.
I hope I'm not being rude by staring into your eyes.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
I think it's just things have changed in India too nowadays. Right? It's totally people, the younger generation, they are changing in the sense now, even now, because of the Western influence, they look into your eyes and they talk. It's more different nowadays. It used to be different before. Now if you go, it's totally different.
Oh,
It changed.
okay.
This was like a couple of decades ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
Two
okay.
decades ago.
Okay.
My feet are over here. I have one question.
Another important thing is the appearance is extremely crucial. For instance, if we want to preach, provide a sermon, like usually priests and pastors, people that have higher positions like leaders, if they go in the pulpit with a T-shirt like of having weed leaves, and saying that smoking is wonderful, or if the female has like a dress and then she's showing her cleavage and showing like a lot of skin, then people are less likely to accept their message, and they are giving less credibility than someone that is more presentable. Yeah, so it's sophistication is quite important for the positions we embrace, because it provides like an idea of who you are inside. It lets people know, okay, so people tend to categorize people by the way they dress. They say, oh, this person tends to be a sluggish person because they tend to dress, very, just casual all the time, too comfortable, wearing pajamas all the time, so they seem like a lazy person. Yeah, so people tend to categorize according to appearance as well. And it's actually something that I've noticed too, because when I'm in school, people will automatically think I'm rich because of the way I dress, and I'm like, no, I'm not rich. They're like, you're rich. Quit lying to us. We know you're rich. And I'm like, I think it's the appearance. Yeah, but I'm not rich. I just like to look presentable. But yeah, alrighty. So the tone of voice is also something that is really important. So for instance, if we kind of like when I send a text message, because the tone of voice is exempted, it causes confusion. Sometimes people think that I'm mad when I'm actually very happy texting, but I forget to put a smiley face. So whenever I text, I always try to make sure I put a lot of expressions so it can define my tone of voice, because the tone of voice has a lot to do with the context of the information you're providing. For instance, like if I say, "Oh, I'm happy," or like "I'm happy," like then they think that you're being sarcastic if you say "I'm happy." Then if I'm happy too, then they'll know that you're happy. So because there's a lot of sarcasm that it tends to contradict. They'll say, "Oh no, it's okay, sorry." They'll say one thing, but then they mean the opposite. So the tone of voice is extremely important in North America, and I'm sure everywhere else. So, alright. Gestures are another important thing. Is we use our hands to show gestures. Like Americans tend to be more moderately expressive when it comes to body language, gesturing freely compared to most Asians, but seeming constrained when compared to some Latin or Arab cultures. And an American might misread an exaggerated use of hands or arms in conversation as an indication of excitability or distress in a person, when in fact it means nothing of the sort. Keeping this in mind, providers should stay aware of how their own gesturing could be interpreted. Moving quickly and gesturing broadly might create discomfort for an Asian person, but go relatively unnoticed by someone from the Middle East. Similarly, a Western provider may over or underestimate a patient's level of pain based on the presence or absence of loud complaint and other expressions of pain, which are closely tied to a person's culture. For instance, the Asian culture, like the Japanese, they tend to they don't express their pain. Like for everything, they just smile. So even if they fell and it hurt, they will smile about it. Even if they were embarrassed about something, they will smile because they like to exempt emotion. Yeah. And North Americans, if we hurt ourselves, we're yelling. We're like, this hurts. And we're showing like how much pain we're feeling. And so sometimes someone can misread and say, oh, that person, it didn't hurt them because they didn't express any hurt feelings. But they might be hurting inside, but they just don't take it out. They don't show it. So yeah, the Japanese, they tend to be more less expressionist in their emotions. So they express their emotions less. And yet in North America, it's like 90%. Like we express our emotions like 90% of the time. So another space is also something important. Is the cultures. For instance, have you ever felt uncomfortable during a conversation because the other person was standing too close and invading your space? Well, actually, I have, and when I didn't know that this was a cultural thing, I was asking my mom like, why is this person so close to me? I was like, I feel like they like intrusively invaded my bubble. Like I was like, I have to have like a bubble area where it's like there has to be a distance, or else I feel very uncomfortable. So when they would get too close to me, I look down because I feel uncomfortable. And I actually found out that that's something cultural that in America, North America, we tend to like our space. And if someone intrudes like our space, we already feel uncomfortable. Like that person is being intrusive and rude. But in other cultures, it's different. I've heard it's different. I'm not sure exactly how that might be different, but for instance,
In India, it's same, right?
It's the same.
Same.
In fact, the bubble is bigger, depending on
Yeah.
like I know that some of the space also it relates to like intimacy, like how close, how comfortable you feel with a person, or like aggressiveness and like
Oh, that's
hitting
true. Yeah.
each other. So that's another thing about
Yeah, and like
space.
male to male holding each other and patting your two
Yeah,
males walking together with shoulders and buddies,
yeah,
which is
It's common.
it's common.
yeah,
And holding each other like this
yes.
is common in India.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
here,
And it's friendship. It's
Friendship.
just nothing else. It's
yeah,
just friendship.
it's still friendship between guys, but the same thing, locking your arms with another boy walking like this could mean something else. They'll
Yes.
think you're a couple,
Oh,
two
okay.
males.
Yeah, in India, right?
Yeah.
India.
Yes, for sure.
But
Yeah.
in India, I can be. That's what happened.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
No,
mean to
that's
interrupt.
what happened. My friend, he came from India about 4 or 5 years ago, and then he was trying to hold me like this and call me. I was like, don't hug me. Just say.
Oh,
"What?"
yes.
It's not considered right. He said, okay.
Yes.
Then he couldn't understand for a while because we used to do that in India. Yeah, it's different.
Okay.
The spaces you have to maintain spaces. There it's,
Yeah. And the same, it's a converse with the female. So if you're locking hands and of course now probably it's a little different, but a little while ago, if you're locking hands with another female, depending on how you're holding.
Yeah.
Here it's friendship still, whereas in India it's only if you're a lover.
Oh.
So it's converse with opposite sex.
Okay. I remember that in California when I was in school, since there's a high rate of lesbians and gays, like just homosexuality. There's a lot of homosexuality in California. Whenever I was cold, because our school is outside, I would be holding on to my female friends, like their arms, and just being really close to them because we were both really cold and we're trying to get body heat from each other. But everyone else would think we're lesbians. They'll be like, oh, lesbians, passing by. So they would automatically ask me like, oh, so are you a lesbian? I was like, no. Like I was just cold, that's all. I just felt cold, but I noticed that that's a cultural thing too. So yeah. Alrighty. Ultimately, nonverbal behaviors, they play a huge role in our daily lives, and these positive verbal behaviors that we must all learn how to embrace produce a positive outcome of attaining a positive response from the audience. I hope we have all learned something through this lecture, and I hope we will all take our time learning about one another's nonverbal behaviors with an open mind of the other person's culture.